My name is Wanda Walsh. I am 32 years old. And for 9 years, my family told everyone I was a waitress. Every holiday, every birthday, every family dinner at my parents' house in Ridgefield, Connecticut. My mother would introduce me to guests the same way you might introduce a stain on the carpet. Quickly, quietly, and with an apology in her voice. And my father, a man who carved turkeys with more emotion than he ever showed me, would shake his head and say the same 6 words every single time. At least your sister has a real career. They said it at Thanksgiving. They said it at Easter. They said it in front of the neighbors, the Hendersons, my cousins, and anyone who made the mistake of asking what I did for a living. What my sister found on Google last Christmas changed everything. And the 4 words I said through that intercom, my mother is still not over them. Before I take you back to where this started, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a like. And if you are listening right now, drop your city and local time in the comments. I read every single one. Now let me take you back 9 years, to the night I told my mother I was leaving the business program. She did not speak to me for 11 days. I was 23. Junior year at UConn. Business administration major. The safe path. The path my mother Diane had mapped out before I even learned to drive. I sat at the kitchen table and told her I was transferring to the New England Culinary Institute. She set her coffee mug down so slowly it made no sound. "You want to cook?" she said. "You want to spend 4 years of tuition to cook." I tried to explain. I told her about the externship I had done over the summer, about the chef in New Haven who said I had instinct, about the way time disappeared when I worked a station. The only place in my life where my brain went quiet and my hands knew what to do. She heard none of it. "You can cook at home, Wanda. I cook at home. Your grandmother cooked at home. That is not a career." My father Gerald came into the kitchen that night. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. He did not sit down. "Your mother worked 2 jobs so you girls could go to college, and you are choosing pots and pans." My sister Nadine was 27. Already 2 years into a marketing coordinator role at a firm in Stamford. She sat on the couch in the living room the whole time, pretending to watch television. She did not defend me. She did not say a word. But I caught the look on her face when I walked past. It was not sympathy. It was relief. Because I had just made her the only daughter worth bragging about. I packed my car the next morning. Mom told the extended family I was taking a gap year. She could not even say the word culinary. 2 years later, I was standing in the prep kitchen at Bellamy's in Fairfield, Connecticut, peeling 30 pounds of butternut squash at 5 in the morning. Bellamy's was special. A converted 1920s bank building with exposed brick, original tin ceilings, and a 68-seat dining room that smelled like brown butter and rosemary by 11 every morning. Farm-to-table New England cuisine. The kind of place where couples drove 40 minutes for the halibut and came back the next week for the short ribs. The owner was Marcus Bellamy, 61 years old, former Marine, hands like baseball mitts. He ran the kitchen with discipline and zero sentimentality, and he was the first person in my life who judged me solely by what I produced. One morning, 6 months into my prep cook job, he pulled me aside after service. "Walsh. Chef." He held out a white chef's apron, clean, pressed, the Bellamy's logo stitched on the chest. "Stop wearing the prep cook apron, you earned this." I held that apron like other people hold diplomas. I put it on right there, tied the strings twice because my hands were shaking. It smelled like starch and possibility. My phone buzzed in my locker an hour later. A text from my mother. "Nadine got promoted. Assistant account manager. Just thought you should know." No question about my life. No follow-up. Just a bulletin about the daughter who mattered. I stared at the text for maybe 10 seconds. Then I put my phone back in the locker and went back to the line. The apron stayed on. Thanksgiving that year. My parents' dining room in Ridgefield. The long oak table. The good china. 12 people crammed elbow to elbow. My parents. Nadine. Uncle Henry. Aunt Lorraine, 3 cousins, and the Hendersons from next door. Mom did the introductions the way she always did, loudly, strategically. Everyone, you remember Nadine. She just got promoted at McCormick and Tate. Applause. Nadine smiled her corporate smile. And Wanda is working at a restaurant in Fairfield. She said restaurant the way someone says rash, like she hoped no one would ask follow-up questions. My father carved the turkey. He did not look at me when he said it. At least your sister has a real career. The table laughed. Not cruelly. The way people laugh when something has been said so many times it becomes family furniture. A joke everyone sits on without thinking. I tried. I did try. Actually, I got promoted. I am sous chef now. Mom cut across me. That is nice, honey. Nadine, tell everyone about that client dinner in Manhattan. And just like that, the conversation moved on. Like I had not spoken. Like sous chef was a word in a language nobody at that table bothered to learn. Uncle Henry, my father's younger brother, caught my eye from across the table. He was the only one who did not laugh. He gave me a small nod. The kind of nod that says, I see you. After dinner, while everyone was watching football, he found me in the kitchen doing dishes. What is the restaurant called? Bellamy's. I will stop by sometime. He did. 3 weeks later. Ordered the halibut, left a 40% tip, and never told a soul. The years stacked up like plates in a dish pit, each one heavier than the last. Year 3. I made head chef. I called my mother to tell her. She said, Are you still at that place? And then asked if I could bring a dessert to Nadine's birthday dinner. Year 4. Bellamy's got a write-up in Connecticut magazine. 3 paragraphs about the tasting menu. My name in print. I texted Mom the link. She never mentioned it. Year 5. Nadine made senior account director. Mom threw a dinner. I attended. I brought flowers. Dad introduced me to the Henderson's son as the one who works in food service. He said it the way you might say community service. Slightly apologetic. Mildly criminal. Year 6. Marcus Bellamy turned 64. His knees were giving out. His wife wanted him home. He sat me down after a Friday night service and told me he was thinking about retiring. I want to give you first right of refusal, Walsh, on the restaurant and the building. I asked him how much. He wrote a number on a napkin. 4.7 million. I did not sleep that night. I sat in my apartment, a rented 1-bedroom above a dry cleaner, and ran numbers on a spreadsheet until 2 in the morning. Every Christmas in between was the same script. Nadine's promotions? Celebrated. My career? Tolerated. The extended family learned to stop asking about me because the answers made my mother uncomfortable. So I stopped offering answers. I stopped trying to explain sous chef, or head chef, or revenue, or margin. I stopped volunteering information about a life none of them wanted to hear about. By year 7, I owned something none of them knew about, and I had no intention of telling them. Marcus and I closed the deal in August. I was 29. The purchase, Bellamy's restaurant, the kitchen, the dining room, and the entire 3-story building it sat in. $4.7 million. I financed it through an SBA loan, 7 years of savings, every cent I had not spent on rent and groceries, and a quiet investment from Uncle Henry. $200,000, properly documented, a handshake and a notarized contract, and a man who believed in me before I had proof. I set up an LLC, Walsh Hospitality Group. The property deed was filed at the Fairfield County Clerk's office under the LLC name. Public record. Anyone with internet access could find it. Nobody in my family ever looked. The first thing I did as owner was renovate the second floor into a private event space. Hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, seating for $8,000 a booking. The second thing I did was expand the wine cellar. 200 bottles, temperature-controlled. The third thing I did was install a new security system at the front entrance, camera and intercom. A small screen in my office showed whoever was standing at the door. A button let me talk to them without opening it. Rosa Gutierrez, my front-of-house manager, 58 years old, been at Bellamy's since before I started, was the only staff member who knew I was the owner. I told her on closing day. She stared at me for a full 5 seconds. You bought the whole building. She shook her head. Girl, and you still bus tables on busy nights. I shrugged. Someone has to. The deed was filed. The LLC was registered. The building was mine. And 26 miles away in Ridgefield, my family went on telling everyone I was a waitress. Rosa asked me once. The question everyone would ask later. Why do you not just tell them? I was reorganizing the dry storage. Cans of San Marzano tomatoes lined up by expiration date. I did not look up. If I told them, what would change? They would know. They would know I am rich. They would not know I am good. And the difference matters to me. I had tested it once. Year 5. I told my mother the restaurant was profitable. I was proud. I wanted to share one small piece of it with her. Her response, that is good, honey, but it is not a career. Nadine just bought a condo in Stamford. A condo, a 2-bedroom condo that Nadine financed with a 30-year mortgage and a cosigner, held up as evidence of success, while I was running a business that cleared $2 million a year and she called it a hobby. That was the moment the decision hardened. Their pride was conditional. It required a job title they could repeat at church without embarrassment. It required a salary they could compare to the neighbor's children. It required a life that looked like Nadine's. I could not give them that. I did not want to. So the silence became my strategy. I stopped trying to impress them. I stopped trying to educate them. I let them believe what they wanted. And every holiday, every dinner, every eye roll, and every shaken head, I filed it away. Evidence of who they were when they thought I had nothing. Rosa shook her head. You are testing them. Yes. And they keep failing. Every single time. She picked up a can of tomatoes and shelved it without a word. She understood. Some tests are not about passing. They are about knowing where you stand. The group chat surfaced by accident. A Wednesday in March. My phone pinged. A screenshot from Nadine, sent to me by mistake. She had meant to forward it to her friend Jess. The screenshot showed a group chat called Walsh Fam. 5 members. Mom, Dad, Nadine, Aunt Lorraine, Cousin Margaret. I was not in it. I had never been invited. The visible messages were from 3 days earlier. A thread about Easter planning. Aunt Lorraine. I was thinking of stopping by Wanda's restaurant after church on Sunday. Is it any good? Mom. Lorraine, please. It is embarrassing. She will try to serve you and make a whole thing out of it. Aunt Lorraine. I heard it is actually pretty nice. Mom. Let us not encourage her. She needs to get a real job, not play hostess at some little place in Fairfield. Nadine had added a thumbs-up emoji. No words. Just a thumb. Agreement without accountability. I sat in my office and read those messages 3 times. The framed deed hung on the wall to my left. The chef's apron hung beside it. My mother's words glowed on the screen in front of me. Let us not encourage her. Some little place. Play hostess. I saved the screenshot. I did not respond. I did not confront anyone. I did not text Nadine to ask why she sent it or why she agreed. I saved it to a folder on my phone. I labeled the folder, for when I need to remember why. And then I put my phone in the drawer, tied my apron, walked into the kitchen, and plated 63 covers that night without a single mistake. The restaurant did not care about my mother's opinion, and neither did I. June. Nadine made VP of Marketing at McCormick and Tate. Mom threw a dinner party. Not a casual dinner. A production. Catered appetizers. A printed menu card at every place setting. Candles that smelled like vanilla and validation. 14 people around the dining room table. Extended family. The Hendersons. 2 of Nadine's college friends. And me. Seated between Cousin Margaret and the empty chair where Uncle Henry would have been if he had not claimed a head cold. Mom stood up with a glass of white wine. To Nadine, who never stopped reaching for the top, our shining star. She paused, looked at me, smiled the way you smile at a child who tried their best and still came in last. And to Wanda, we love you too, honey. The table applauded. For Nadine. The addendum about me got a polite murmur. Later, by the dessert table, Cousin Derek asked me what I was up to these days. Before I could answer, my father materialized beside me, hand on my shoulder, the weight of it like a verdict. "She waits tables," he said. Then the echo. The refrain that had played on loop for 9 years. "But at least her sister has a real career." Derek laughed. It was easier than asking a follow-up question. Across the room, Uncle Henry would have caught my eye, would have given me that small nod. But he was not there. And in his absence, nobody saw me. 6 months later, something happened that made that dinner party irrelevant. Something my sister did on her laptop at 11:47 at night, 2 days before Christmas, that cracked open 9 years of assumptions like an eggshell on a marble counter. By year 9, Bellamy's was one of the top 20 restaurants in Connecticut. Hartford Courant ran a feature. Connecticut Magazine named us a must-visit destination. A food blogger with 300,000 followers called us Connecticut's best-kept secret. I laughed when I read that. She had no idea how right she was. The event space on the second floor was booked 8 months out. Corporate dinners, wedding rehearsals, charity galas. 3 hedge fund firms in Greenwich had us on retainer for quarterly client dinners. $8,000 per event, minimum spend. Revenue that year, $2.1 million. I paid myself a salary of $85,000, modest by any standard, and reinvested the rest. New equipment, staff bonuses, a retirement matching program for anyone who had been with us over 3 years. My morning routine never changed. Unlock the building, walk up to my office, glance at the deed on the wall, $4.7 million in black ink behind museum glass, check the day's reservations, review the prep list, tie the apron. Rosa would bring me coffee at 6:30. We would sit in the dining room before the first delivery truck arrived and go through the day. "You are running a $2 million operation," she said one morning, stirring her coffee. "Your parents think you bus tables." "Correct. That does not bother you?" "It tells me everything I need to know about them." She shook her head, but she was smiling. Stubborn. Just like Marcus. The James Beard Foundation long-listed Bellamy's for a semi-final nomination that spring. I did not tell my family. I printed the notification, framed it, and hung it next to the deed. Another piece of proof that nobody asked to see. The article appeared in September. Fairfield County Business Journal, a roundup of rising ventures in the region. Paragraph 7. Walsh Hospitality Group LLC, managing member Wanda M. Walsh, has emerged as one of Fairfield County's most successful independent restaurant operations, anchored by the award-winning Bellamy's in downtown Fairfield. My full legal name. In print. Indexed on Google. Rosa brought the article to my office and set it on my desk like a subpoena. "Your family is going to see this." "My family does not read the Fairfield County Business Journal." "It is on the internet, Wanda. One search." She was right. One search. 5 words typed into Google. That was all it would take. My name, the LLC, the property value. Everything laid out in county records that anyone could access. I sat with it for an hour after Rosa left. I considered calling my mother, telling her myself. On my terms, in my voice, without the filter of Google algorithms or county databases. But then I remembered the group chat. Let us not encourage her. Some little place. No, I had given them 9 years of chances to ask me a real question about my life, to Google the restaurant, to visit, to show up on a Tuesday and order the halibut the way Uncle Henry did, quietly, without an agenda. They chose not to. The article sat on the internet like a digital time bomb with my full legal name attached, waiting for someone in my family to stumble across it. I went back to the kitchen. I had 64 covers that night, and a new sous chef to train. The bomb could wait. My mother did not just ignore my career. She actively managed the narrative. Uncle Henry's wife Beth told me about the conversation at church. She overheard it after Sunday service, standing in the parking lot. A woman from the congregation asked Diane about her daughters. "Oh, Wanda. She is doing fine. She likes the service industry." Pause. Smile. Some people are just built for that. built for that, like I was a different species, hardwired for carrying plates instead of carrying titles. Beth called me that afternoon. "I thought you should know what your mother is saying." I thanked her. I did not call my mother. There was nothing to say that the deed on my wall had not already said louder. Then came the Christmas card. Every year, Mom sent out a family photo card. This year, the photo was from Nadine's promotion dinner, the one with the catered appetizers and the printed menus. 14 people smiling around the table. I was in the original photo. I know because Nadine posted it on Instagram. But in the card Mom sent to the extended family, I was cropped out. Cut at the elbow. The frame tightened to feature Nadine front and center, Mom and Dad flanking her like proud bookends. I saw the card at Uncle Henry's house. He had it on his fridge, and he had drawn an arrow in Sharpie pointing to the cropped edge. Next to the arrow he had written, "Wanda was here." He caught me staring at it. "Your mother is going to feel very stupid one day," he said, "and I plan to be in the room when it happens." I almost told him right then. Almost. But the test was not over, and they had not stopped failing it. My life outside the restaurant was small, deliberately small. I converted the third floor of the building into a studio apartment, 700 square feet. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen I almost never used because I ate at the restaurant. Bookshelves lined every wall, cookbooks, business management, a surprising amount of poetry. A rescue cat named Parsley lived on the windowsill. Orange Tabby, missing half an ear, found behind the dumpster during my first year as head chef. She did not judge my career choices. I dated occasionally. A contractor who renovated the event space. A sommelier from a restaurant in New Haven. Nothing lasted. Not because anything was wrong with them, but because the restaurant consumed every hour I was willing to give, and I was willing to give a lot. The restaurant is the love affair right now, I told Rosa when she asked why I never brought anyone to the staff Christmas party. She pointed at me with a bread knife. "That is not healthy," says the woman who has been married to Bellamy's since before I was born. She put the knife down. Touché. I called Uncle Henry every Sunday. He was the one thread connecting me to the family without the weight of performance. We talked about baseball, about his garden, about the restaurant. He never pushed me to tell my parents. He understood. Some evenings I stood on the rooftop of my building. 3rd floor fire escape, looking out over downtown Fairfield. The church steeple. The hardware store. The park where farmers market vendors set up every Saturday. I built this. The thought came quiet and certain. No one handed it to me. No one even believed I could. And somehow, that made it better. Easter. My parents' house. I came straight from brunch service because I could not find a reason to say no, and I had run out of excuses. I was wearing my chef's apron under my jacket. The white one. Bellamy's logo on the chest. I had not had time to change. Mom spotted it the moment I walked through the door. Her eyes went to the apron the way a metal detector goes to a landmine. "Please tell me you did not wear that here." "I came straight from work, Mom." "Take it off. The Hendersons are coming, and I do not want them to think." She stopped. But the sentence finished itself in the silence between us. "You do not want them to think your daughter works with her hands." Nadine was arranging flowers on the dining table. She laughed. "Mom, relax. It is just an apron." But Diane's face said everything the words did not. The apron was evidence. The apron was the thing she spent 9 years trying to deny. It smelled like work, like effort, like a choice she would never forgive me for making. I took it off, folded it neatly, set it on the kitchen counter next to the breadbasket. I did not argue. I did not explain. I just took it off and joined the table and ate ham and answered questions about the weather. When I got home that night, I did not hang up my jacket first. I ordered a new apron. Same style, same logo. And I hung the old one in my office at the restaurant, right next to the framed deed. My mother wanted it off my body. I gave it a wall. The email landed on a Tuesday in October, 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. It came from Margaret, Aunt Lorraine's daughter, my second cousin. She and I were not close. We exchanged birthday texts and nothing else. But Margaret was the kind of person who forwarded things without checking the recipient list, and on that particular Tuesday, she forwarded an email chain to me that was never meant for my eyes. Subject line, FWD, Thanksgiving planning. She had meant to send it to her husband, Dave. Instead, she sent it to me. Alphabetical contacts, Walsh, Dave, Walsh, Wanda. I opened it at my desk. Parsley was asleep on the printer. The deed on the wall. The apron beside it. The chain was between 3 people. My mother, Nadine, Aunt Lorraine, Diane. Put Wanda at the kids' table. I know she is 32, but honestly, she embarrasses me in front of the Hendersons. Last year, Gerald had to explain what she does twice. If someone asks, just say she is in hospitality. It sounds less pathetic. Nadine, in hospitality. Mom, you are terrible, but also kind of right. Aunt Lorraine, Diane, she is your daughter. Diane. And I love her. But loving someone does not mean I have to pretend their choices are not disappointing. I read it 3 times. Slowly. The way you read a verdict. Pathetic. Embarrassing. Disappointing. Written in an email about seating arrangements. Between the woman who gave birth to me, the sister who grew up beside me, and the aunt who at least had the decency to push back. I did not cry. I did not call anyone. I did not type a reply. I took a screenshot. Saved it to the folder on my phone. The one labeled, for when I need to remember why. Then I closed my email. Picked up parsley. Walked downstairs. I had 81 covers that night. The risotto needed finishing. The world kept turning. And I kept it turning with my hands. She wrote pathetic. My own mother. In an email about Thanksgiving seating. If you have ever read something about yourself that you were never supposed to see, something that stripped away every excuse you had been making for them, you know exactly what I felt sitting in that office chair. Drop a comment if you have been there. And if this story is hitting close right now, that subscribe button is right there. I went to Thanksgiving. I sat at the adults' table. They did not follow through on the kids' table plan. Too obvious, maybe. Or maybe Aunt Lorraine had pushed harder than the email showed. Either way, I was seated between Dad and Cousin Derek, directly across from Nadine, with a clear sightline to Mom at the head of the table. I brought dessert. Creme brulee, made that morning at the restaurant. Individual ramekins, torched tableside by me with a kitchen torch I carried in my bag. Everyone raved. Where did you get these? Mom asked, inspecting hers like it might be poisoned with ambition. I made them. A pause. The briefest flicker of something on her face. Surprise, maybe. Or the faintest recognition that the daughter she called pathetic could produce something beautiful. It is good. She set down her spoon. You should make these for Nadine's housewarming. There it was. Even the compliment bent toward Nadine. Even the acknowledgement came with a redirect. You are good enough to serve my other daughter. You are support staff in your own family. I smiled. I said nothing about the email. I did not confront. I did not signal. I ate turkey and answered polite questions and helped with the dishes afterward, standing at the same sink where I had been invisible for 9 years. Margaret, the cousin who had sent the email, sat at the far end of the table. She did not make eye contact with me once. She knew. I knew she knew. And that silent mutual understanding hung in the air between us like smoke from a torch that had already done its damage. I drove home at 9. The restaurant was dark. Parsley was waiting at the door. I did not need them to know I had read it. I just needed to remember what I was worth to them without the deed. Nadine started to crack around December. I heard it from Uncle Henry first. Her company, McCormick and Tate, was restructuring. The marketing division, her division, was being evaluated for operational efficiency. Corporate language for layoffs. VP of Marketing is a title that sounds invincible until the company decides marketing is a cost center. Then it becomes the most expensive chair to sit in when the music stops. At the next family dinner, a Sunday in mid-December, Nadine was different. The performance was still there, but the wattage was lower. She laughed at Mom's jokes a beat too late. She poured her second glass of wine before anyone else had finished their first. Mom compensated. When Mom sensed weakness in her golden child, she doubled down on the narrative. Nadine is leading a major rebranding campaign right now. She is absolutely essential to the company. Nadine did not correct her, but I saw her jaw tighten at the word essential. I watched my sister across the table and I felt something I did not expect. Sympathy. Not for what she had done to me. The thumbs up emoji, the laughing reply, the years of accepting praise that was built on my diminishment. But for the cage she was in. Mom had put both of us in cages. Mine was the basement. Low expectations, no visibility, the freedom that comes with being forgotten. Nadine's was the pedestal. High expectations, total visibility, the prison that comes with being the only proof your mother made it out of poverty. For the first time, I wondered if Nadine was performing too, if the corporate smile was as much for Mom as it was for LinkedIn. But I did not have time to feel sorry for my sister, because 6 weeks later, she was going to do something on her laptop that would change our family permanently. Connecticut magazine published their annual best of list in December. Bellamy's won Best Restaurant in Fairfield County. Not long-listed, not nominated, won. The editors sent a photographer. She spent an afternoon shooting the dining room, the kitchen, the event space. She took a portrait of me standing in front of the brick wall with my arms crossed. Apron on. No smile. Just steady. The issue hit stands the second week of December. My face on page 47. My name in the caption, Wanda Walsh, chef-owner, Bellamy's. Rosa brought 2 copies to the restaurant. She put one in the front window. The other she slid across my desk. "You made the paper," she said, "and your mother still does not know you own the place." "Correct. This is either the greatest poker face in history or the saddest thing I have ever seen." "Why not both?" That Friday, I closed the restaurant early and bought dinner for the entire staff, 12 people, seated at our best table. Rosa gave a toast. To the boss who still closes the kitchen herself. Everyone raised their glasses. The dishwasher, Marco, who had been with us 7 years. The line cooks, Damon and Priya, who worked doubles every weekend without complaint. The new sous chef, Jamie, who was learning what I had learned from Marcus, that a kitchen is a meritocracy, that the work is the proof. These were the people who knew me, not as a waitress, not as a disappointment, not as the daughter who made the wrong choice, as the person who built something worth building. December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, the night my sister finally decided to type 5 words into a search bar. Christmas Eve dinner, my parents' house, the annual production. Mom had outdone herself. New tablecloth, garland on the staircase, a centerpiece that probably cost more than my first month's rent. The Hendersons were there, of course, along with Aunt Lorraine, Margaret, Cousin Derek, and Uncle Henry, who had recovered from whatever strategic illness had kept him away from the VP dinner. Nadine was co-hosting. She moved through the party like a woman who had been trained to network since birth. Handshake, smile, pivot, repeat. She had straightened her hair and was wearing a dress that cost more than my best knife set. During appetizers, Mr. Henderson's wife, Claire, turned to me. "Wanda, what is the name of the restaurant where you work? My book club is looking for a nice spot." "Bellamy's, in Fairfield." Simple. No elaboration, no pitch, no desperate plea for recognition. Mom appeared at my elbow like a reflex. "It is a sweet little spot." Her voice had the texture of a compliment stretched over a dismissal. "Wanda enjoys it there." She patted my arm. "The way you pat a child who drew a picture you are going to throw away as soon as they leave the room." Nadine was across the room, refilling her wine, but I saw her pause. She had heard the name. Bellamy's. Something flickered behind her eyes. Recognition, or maybe competition. That particular itch that comes from hearing a word you cannot place and needing to look it up. Dinner continued. I left at 10. "Merry Christmas, everyone." I was driving home on the Merritt Parkway when my phone lit up on the passenger seat. Nadine calling. I let it ring. 11:47 at night. Christmas Eve. Nadine sat on her childhood bed in the guest room at my parents' house, laptop open on her knees. I was not there. I did not see it happen, but I know exactly how it went because Nadine told me later, and because the search results do not lie. She typed, Bellamy's Fairfield, Connecticut. The first result was our website. Clean design, professional photography, award badges lined across the header. The kind of site that does not belong to a sweet little spot. The second result was Connecticut Magazine. Best restaurant in Fairfield County. My photo. My name. The third result was the Fairfield County Business Journal. Walsh Hospitality Group, LLC, one of Fairfield County's most successful independent restaurant operations. The fourth result was the Fairfield County Clerk's Office, property records, building owner, Walsh Hospitality Group, LLC, managing member, Wanda M. Walsh. Assessed value, $4,700,000. Nadine told me her hands were shaking so hard she mistyped the password to the property records portal 3 times. She called Mom. It was 11:53. Wanda owns the restaurant. What? She owns it. The restaurant. And the building. That is impossible. She is a waitress. Mom. Her name is on the deed. The entire building. It is worth $4.7 million. Silence. The kind that stretches across phone lines and fills rooms with a pressure you can feel in your teeth. Gerald's voice from the bedroom. What is going on? Diane did not answer him. She was already pulling her coat off the hook by the front door. Get dressed, she said. We are going to Fairfield. I was at the restaurant when they left Ridgefield. Christmas Eve, after midnight. Bellamy's was closed for the holiday, but I was there anyway, doing what I always did when the world got loud. I went to the kitchen. Inventory. Prep lists. The particular comfort of counting things that stayed where you put them. My phone sat on the prep station counter. 3 missed calls from Nadine, 2 from Mom, 1 text from my father. We need to talk. 4 words that had never preceded anything good in the history of language. I did not reply. I sat on my prep stool and looked around the kitchen. The stainless steel counters, the walk-in cooler humming, the rack of copper pots Marcus had left when he retired because he said they belonged to the building, not to him. I knew what was coming. Some part of me had always known. The bomb on the internet had been ticking for months. The article, the LLC filing, the property records. They were all there, waiting for someone in my family to care enough to look. I texted Rosa. Merry Christmas, boss, she had written an hour earlier. Whatever happens tomorrow, you built this. I wrote back, Merry Christmas, and I think it is happening tonight. Parsley was asleep on my desk chair upstairs. The deed was on the wall. The apron hung beside it. The intercom screen showed the empty sidewalk outside. I made a cup of coffee. Decaf. Sat in my office. Waited. At 12:14 in the morning, the intercom buzzed. I did not flinch. I looked at the screen. 3 figures on the sidewalk. In the cold. Staring up at a building they had never bothered to visit. The security camera showed them in black and white, but I did not need color to read their faces. Diane stood closest to the door. She was still wearing her Christmas Eve dress, deep green, pearls, heels, with her winter coat thrown over it like an afterthought. Her hair was slightly undone. She had not taken the time to fix it before getting in the car. Gerald stood a step behind her, hands in his jacket pockets. His posture said what his mouth would not. He did not want to be here. He wanted to be in bed. But Diane had decided, and Gerald followed. Nadine was furthest back. She held her phone at waist level, screen still glowing with the property record she had found 40 minutes earlier. Her face was pale even in the grayscale of the camera. The building looked different at night. The stone facade caught the streetlight. The restored windows glowed faintly from the accent lights I left on for security. The brass plaque by the door read Bellamy's, established 2009 in block letters. It was, by any measure, a beautiful building. The kind of building that makes you pause on a sidewalk and wonder who owns it. My mother pressed the intercom button. The buzzer sounded in my office. Wanda, open this door. I watched them on the screen. 3 people I had loved my entire life, standing outside my building, looking up at something they had spent 9 years telling me did not matter. She pressed the button again. Wanda. I set down my coffee. I put my hand on the intercom button. My thumb rested on it for 3 seconds. Then I waited. I let them buzz 2 more times. And then I pressed the button. 3 people on a sidewalk at midnight on Christmas Eve, staring up at a building they told everyone was not worth visiting, staring at a name on a property record they told everyone did not matter. If you know what it feels like to be underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you first, this next part is for you. Stay with me. I stood up from my desk, smoothed my sweater, pushed the chair back. The apron was on the wall. The same white chef's apron my mother had told me to take off at Easter. I had washed it and pressed it and hung it in a simple black frame. It was not art. It was not a trophy. It was a record. Proof that the thing she found most embarrassing about me was the thing I was most proud of. The deed hung beside it. $4.7 million in assessed value. Black ink on cream paper behind museum glass. My name in the managing member line. Walsh Hospitality Group, LLC. I did not rehearse what I was going to say. I did not plan a speech. I did not fantasize about their faces or practice devastating one-liners in the mirror. That is not who I am. That is not who this restaurant taught me to be. I just breathed. Counted to 4 on the inhale. Counted to 4 on the exhale. The way I did before every dinner service. The way Marcus taught me. Then I walked down the hallway. Past the event space with its hardwood floors and pendant lights. Down the stairs. Through the kitchen. My kitchen. Where the stainless steel reflected the emergency exit lights in thin green lines across the counters. Through the dining room. 68 seats. Exposed brick. The awards on the wall. The brass bar stools. The wine list in leather binders. To the front door. The intercom screen showed them still standing there. Diane had her arms crossed. Gerald was looking at the ground. Nadine was reading something on her phone. I put my hand on the door handle. I did not open it yet. I pressed the intercom button instead. My voice came through the speaker. Steady. Clear. The same voice I used to call orders during a Friday night rush. What do you want? Diane's head snapped up. She looked directly into the camera. Wanda, open this door right now. We saw... Nadine found... Is this... Do you own this? What do you want, Mom? I want to come inside. I want to understand what is happening. Nothing is happening. This is where I work. This is what I do. You just never asked. Gerald stepped forward. His voice was quieter through the intercom. Wanda, just open the door. We need to talk. You have had 9 years to talk. You used them to tell everyone I was a waitress. I let that sentence sit. The intercom crackled faintly in the cold air. Nobody on the sidewalk moved. Nadine spoke last, softly. The VP voice gone. Something younger underneath it. Wanda, please, just let us in. 7 seconds. I counted them. The same way I counted prep times and ticket windows. 7 seconds of silence on a December sidewalk at 12:20 in the morning. Then I reached for the door handle, pulled it open. The December air hit me with the smell of exhaust and frost and my mother's perfume. Chanel No. 5, the same one she had worn to every holiday dinner for 20 years. They stood in the doorway like strangers. My mother's eyes were already scanning the dining room behind me, cataloging, calculating, revising 32 years of assumptions in real time. Come in, I said. They stepped inside, into a building they had driven past a dozen times and never once stopped to enter. I closed the door behind them. I gave them the tour, the same one I gave Connecticut magazine. The dining room first. Polished hardwood, pendant lights, white tablecloths stacked on the service station, award plaques on the wall. Best restaurant, Fairfield County. James Beard semifinalist. Zagat rated. Diane touched the back of a chair. She did not sit down. Her fingers traced the wood like she was checking for dust. The kitchen next. Commercial grade. 2 6-burner ranges, a flat-top grill, 3 convection ovens. The walk-in cooler with its inventory labels in my handwriting, The past where I called orders every night. "This is mine," I said, simply, like I was stating the weather, down to the wine cellar, 214 bottles. Temperature and humidity controlled. A burgundy collection I had been building for 2 years. Up to the event space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the town square. 80-seat capacity. Booked through next September. Gerald stopped in front of a framed article on the wall. Connecticut magazine. My photo. My name. Chef owner. His voice cracked. "How long?" 3 years as owner. 9 years total. 3 years? Diane's voice was thin. "You have owned this for 3 years and you never—" She did not finish the sentence, because there was no version of that sentence that did not answer itself. Nadine was pale. She stood near the windows of the event space, her reflection floating over the dark town square. I could see her doing the math. VP salary versus building owner. Corporate title versus 4.7 million in assessed property. The math was not in her favor, and she knew it. I did not say anything else. I let the building speak. It had been speaking for 3 years. They just had not been listening. My office was last. Small room, neat desk, computer. Bookshelf with management texts and cookbooks stacked in no particular order. Parsley's cat bed in the corner, empty. She was hiding under the desk, unimpressed by visitors. On the wall, 2 items. The deed, framed in black. 4.7 million. My name. And the apron. The white chef's apron my mother told me to take off at Easter. The one she said embarrassed her. The one she could not bear for the Hendersons to see. Framed. Hung beside the deed. 2 pieces of who I was. One in paper. One in fabric. Diane stared at the deed. I watched her eyes move across the document. Property description. Assessed value. Managing member. Wanda M. Walsh. Her phone slipped from her hand, hit the floor. The screen cracked in a spiderweb pattern across the glass. Nobody picked it up. "When did you—" She started. 3 years ago. Marcus retired. I bought the restaurant and the building. The building. Her voice was barely a whisper. The whole building. All 3 floors. Gerald stood in the doorway. He had not entered the room. Like the office was a courtroom and he was not sure if he was defendant or spectator. Nadine leaned against the door frame opposite her father, arms crossed. She had not spoken since the event space. The room was small, 5 people, including the cat. But the silence filled it like water in a sinking ship, rising, pressing, leaving less and less room to breathe. Diane looked at the apron on the wall, then at the deed, then at me. Her mouth opened, and 9 years of assumptions came flooding out. "Why did you not tell us?" Her voice broke on tell. The way a glass breaks, not shattering but splitting down the middle, 2 clean halves with a sharp edge between them. "We are your family, Wanda. How could you keep this from us? We had a right to know." I was sitting on the edge of my desk, arms crossed. Coffee mug behind me, still warm. "You never asked." 3 words. Quiet. The same volume I used to tell a sous chef the risotto needs another minute. "What? In 9 years you never once asked me what I actually do. You decided I was a waitress and you stopped there." She switched tactics. The tears came. Fast. Practiced. The way tears come when you have been using them as leverage for 30 years. "We could have helped you. We could have been part of this. You shut us out. You shut me out." I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas card, every time you told Claire Henderson I was in the service industry, every time you told the church I was built for that. She flinched at the last one. She did not know I had heard it. "You shut me out," I said again, and called it love. Gerald put his hand on Diane's shoulder. A reflex. He always reached for her when she cried, not because he believed the tears, but because steadying Diane was the only role he knew how to play. Diane pressed her hand over her mouth. Her eyes were red. The tears were real now, not the performative kind, but the kind that come when you run out of ways to spin the story. I did not flinch. I waited. Diane tried one more angle. I never meant to hurt you. Her voice was thick with something that wanted to sound like regret. I was trying to protect you. I just wanted... You wanted to put me at the kids' table at Thanksgiving because I embarrass you in front of the Hendersons. The room went airless. Diane's crying stopped. Instantly. The way a faucet stops when you twist the handle hard. Where did you... Margaret forwarded the email chain. By accident. I paused. Let the word accident dissolve. The one where you called my life pathetic. Gerald looked at the floor. His hand dropped from Diane's shoulder. Nadine, from the doorway. Mom. Diane's mouth moved. No sound came out for 4 seconds. Then, I was venting. I did not mean... You did mean it. And that is okay. Because it told me everything I needed to know. Diane's face changed. The guilt cracked open and something older came through. Something inherited. My mother used to say the same things about me. Her voice was small, stripped of performance. About my job at the register, about the apartment in Bridgeport. She said I would never be more than what I was born into. She looked at the deed on the wall. I just wanted more for you girls. Then you should have wanted more for me, I said. Not just for Nadine. That landed. I saw it land the way you see a knife hit a cutting board. Clean, precise, and final. Diane had no answer. She stood in my office, in my building, in my restaurant, and for the first time in 9 years, she had nothing left to say. Gerald spoke next. He stepped into the office for the first time. 2 steps. Just enough to be inside. Wanda, He swallowed. I am proud of you. His voice was rough, sandpaper on wet wood. He meant it. I could tell because he could barely get the words out, and Gerald Walsh only struggled with words when they were true. I did not need you to be proud, I said. I needed you to be kind. His mouth opened, closed. He looked at the apron on the wall, the deed beside it. His daughter, sitting on the edge of a desk in an office above a restaurant worth more than his pension and his house combined. He had no response. Because there was none. You cannot retroactively be kind. You cannot unsay 9 years of at least your sister has a real career. I turned to Nadine. She had not moved from the doorway. I did not know about the email, she said. I swear. You replied with a laughing emoji and said Mom was kind of right. Nadine went white. The kind of white that starts at the collar and climbs. You were never cruel on purpose, I said. But you liked being the favorite. You liked that I was the comparison that made you look better. And you never once stood up for me. That is not... I thought. You thought what Mom told you. That I was less. And you never checked. I let that settle. Then I looked at my father. At least one of us has a real career. Right, Dad? He did not answer, but his eyes went to the deed on the wall. $4.7 million, and his daughter's name in black ink. The silence was absolute. I stood up from the desk. I am not cutting you off. I am not banning you from the restaurant. I am not going to punish you. Diane looked up. A flash of something. Hope, maybe. Or relief. The instinct of a woman who expected exile and was being offered terms. But I need you to understand something. I did not hide this to humiliate you. I did not keep it a secret out of spite. I looked at each of them. Mom, Dad, Nadine. 3 people standing in a room with a framed apron and a deed and a sleeping cat and the accumulated weight of 9 years of choices. I kept it quiet because I needed to know if you would love me without it. If you would respect me without the dollar amount. If you would ask me one real question about my life. One question that was not a comparison to Nadine. You can visit. You can eat here. You can tell the Hendersons. I do not care anymore. I pointed to the apron on the wall. But that stays. Because that apron is worth more to me than anything you ever celebrated Nadine for. It means I built this with my hands. My hands. Not an LLC, not a business card. These hands. I held them up, scarred from a decade of knife work and hot pans, calloused at the base of every finger. And the next time someone asks what I do, you can tell them the truth. Or you can keep telling them I am a waitress. Either way, I will still own this building in the morning. I walked them to the front door, opened it. The December cold came in like an exhale. Merry Christmas? They walked out. Diane looked back once. I closed the door. I locked the door, turned off the dining room lights, walked back upstairs. Parsley had come out from under the desk and was sitting on my chair, blinking at me like she had personally orchestrated the entire evening and was waiting for a performance review. I sat down, picked her up, set her on my lap. The building was silent, the kind of silence that feels earned, like the quiet after a long service when every plate has been sent and every station is clean and you can finally hear yourself breathe. My phone buzzed. Uncle Henry, I heard something happened. You okay? I typed back. Better than okay. His reply. I have been waiting 9 years for this call. I laughed. Quiet. Alone in my office with a cat and a deed and the faint smell of coffee. Christmas morning. For the first time in 32 years, I did not go to my parents' house. Instead, I opened the restaurant. Not for the public, for my staff. A private Christmas brunch for the 12 people who knew me best. Rosa, Marco, Damon and Priya, Jamie, the bartender, the hosts, the people who showed up every day and never once asked me to justify the apron. I cooked. Eggs Benedict with smoked salmon, fresh squeezed mimosas, cinnamon rolls from a recipe Marcus had given me his last Christmas at Bellamy's. Rosa sat at the head of the table. She looked at me over her mimosa. How does it feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Like I finally took off an apron I did not want to wear. She raised her glass. Merry Christmas, boss. Merry Christmas. January came quiet. The way January always does. Cold, sober, stripped of decorations. My mother texted on January 14th. Can we come for dinner? Not can we talk? Not can we explain? Not can we apologize? Dinner. At the restaurant. I said yes. They came on a Tuesday. The quietest night of the week. 7 other tables occupied. Background noise of cutlery and low conversation. Diane was different. Not transformed. Transformation takes years and usually a therapist and sometimes a mirror you cannot look away from. But quieter. She studied the menu without commenting on prices. She ordered the halibut. She did not compare it to anything Nadine had accomplished. Gerald ordered the steak. When it arrived, he cut a piece, chewed, and said, "This is really good." Simple. No qualifiers, no comparisons, no at least your sister. Just, "This is really good." I nodded. Thank you. Nadine sent a separate text the next day. Not a group message, a direct message. I am sorry. Not for Mom. For me. For laughing. For the emoji. For never asking. For 9 years of sitting in a chair that was built on top of you. I am sorry. It was not enough. It was not close to enough. But it was a start. And a start was more than I had gotten in almost a decade. I did not extend the conversation. I did not comfort her. I did not say it is okay, or I forgive you. Those words would come later. Or they would not. Either way, the power to decide was mine now. They come once a month now. A standing reservation. Table 12, by the window. I join them when I want to. Not when I am summoned. The difference is everything. Here is what 9 years of silence taught me. The people who love you will find you in the kitchen. They will ask about the sauce. They will show up on a Tuesday. The people who love your success will only show up after the deed is filed. Both kinds are family. But only one kind gets a key. That is my story. 9 years. 1 building. 4 words through an intercom. If this reminded you that your worth is not measured by who believes in you, share it with someone who needs to hear that. Drop a comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.